Good morning and welcome to the UP Pregame Show presented by Fox Motors. I am your host, Casey Ford. This has been a long time coming. This is an Upper Peninsula pregame show focused on the Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers. For those of you who don't know me, I hosted an afternoon sports show on ESPN 970 and ESPN UP 93.3 FM. A guy named Tom Mogish brought me up here about 9 years ago to host an afternoon sports show, and I want to bring that kind of quality to your living room now that the Packers and Lions are opening up yet another football season. Now, I want this to be interactive as well. You can follow me on Twitter. The handle is Real Casey Ford, Casey with a C. Also, you can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me at Casey Ford. My page is always public. And if you'd really like, get yourself a cup of coffee, roam wherever, and you can join me at Fox Nagani. I do work for Fox Motors now, so if you're looking for any kind of vehicle, whether it be Chevrolet, GMC, looking for Dodge, you're looking for a Ram, I can help you with all your vehicle needs as well. If you're looking for Ford, I can go down to the Ford store at Fox Marquette and help you with your needs there as well. But I am working at Fox Motors now. But at the same time, I'm trying to get back in the broadcast business and bring you a good quality show with the Packers and Lions. Joining me this morning will be John Mino, Nagani native, and Dan Miller, voice of the Detroit Lions. We're going to take this quick time out. I'd like to thank 906 Sports Bar, Big Boy, and Fox Motors for bringing you this show this morning and for the next 6 mornings. You're watching the UP Pregame Show.
Finally got a date with the girl of my dreams. Probably because I've been hitting the gym. Got some serious gains. Maybe the new do. I don't know. I did shave that sweet mustache. Should probably grow that back.
I like him a lot, but I love his car.
It's the summer clearance event going on now.
Fox Nagani, experience the difference.
What sounds good? What do you think about the Slim Jim and fries? Ooh, let's do seafood. The fish and chips is my favorite. I know, I'll just skip dinner and get a piece of their hot fudge cake. Boy, you're a big help.
Value never goes out of style at Big Boy.
Big Boy Marquette, food worth talking about.
It's game time. Come on up to 906, Marquette's newest sports bar and grill. We're family friendly, and with 12 HD TVs, we have it all. NFL ticket, NHL center ice, and Michigan Lotto games. If the game is on, it's on at the 906 Sports Bar and Grill. Locally owned, serving lunch and dinner daily along with happy hour specials, and everything is fresh, including our hot wings with homemade sauces. Great service, family friendly, and a great view. The 906 Sports Bar and Grill. Look for the red awning at 145 West Washington Street, downtown Marquette.
Joining me now in the pregame show is a man that doesn't really need an introduction. He's hosted a pregame and postgame show on the Green Bay Packer Radio Network. He's also hosted an afternoon show on AM 1440 in Green Bay. He's an Nagani native. Joining me on the Big Boy Hotline, Mr. John Mino. And John, being a man that loves his country, you've been overseas at September 11. Talk to us about the morale and what does September 11 mean to you, sir?
You know, I made 2 trips to Iraq, went to Afghanistan. You know, not to pat myself on the back in any way, shape, or form, but it's the greatest experience of my life just to see those guys in action over there. And when I say guys, I also mean women. I always want to bring up that point. There were so many women that served over in Iraq and Afghanistan. It was absolutely incredible, and their dedication was incredible. But aside from that, Casey, the thing that really choked me up more than anything is when we made trips to Walter Reed Hospital and visit the wounded troops. And the reason I say that is because these men and women were still so determined. They did not feel sorry for themselves in the least. The only thing they regretted was that they weren't back overseas with their buddies anymore because they felt like their buddies needed them. And to a man, everyone said if they could, they would go back to support their buddies. Doesn't have anything to do with patriotism, doesn't those buddies alongside of you. And that, we've all been involved in sports, and everybody always says, oh, I've got your back, we're going to foxhole together. These guys actually did it. They had each other's back right to the very last. And that's the thing that I came away with all those trips. And the 9/11, what it reminds me of is these kids lying in Walter Reed Hospital just fighting to get back into a normal mainstream life. And I actually do a lot with the amputee football team and softball teams here in the area. And they are the most determined, toughest young men and women I've literally ever met in my lifetime. So that's what it means to me.
John, it's been 15 years since that attack. Do you remember exactly what you were doing when you saw that plane hit?
Yeah, I was on the air. I was on the air on WIX6, and we had the news on, the Today Show or something, I don't ever remember, and they had it about the first plane that hit, and then we watched the second plane hit, and the first words out of my mouth were, "We're under attack." And I'll never forget, and so many people have brought that up to me, and they said, wow, we heard you say that on the radio that day. And I didn't even say it consciously. It was just the first thing that popped in my mind. We're under attack. And obviously we've been almost since that morning.
We move on to football. Today marks the opening day of yet another season. John, you've been doing this for quite a long time. What does opening day mean for both the players and the fans around Green Bay?
Well, it's pretty incredible. It really is. And I almost wonder if we take it for granted sometimes. We've lived here for a long time. Because it's the younger players for the Packers then that will come out and say, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And you feel it building up. We have that exact same feeling here in Green Bay. Every year we have that feeling. But it's kind of a situation where no matter how big time you played in college, this kind of trumps it in a certain way. And I don't know if it's the fans or the tailgate or what it is, but to a man, they've all said they've never quite experienced anything like opening day.
John Mino now joins me right here on the UP Pregame Show presented by Fox Motors. And John, a lot of people believe that the Green Bay Packers could win every single game on the schedule. Obviously, they start with Jacksonville at 1 o'clock this afternoon. How much does this schedule really favor the Green Bay Packers this season?
Yeah, it's funny. I saw a report, too, where they're favored, at least at the beginning right now, to win every game. But again, a pulled hamstring on the part of Aaron Rodgers or a broken collarbone, not to jinx them, but anything like that, that obviously goes all out the window. But the thing that I'm still waiting to see, Casey, and obviously Rodgers barely played in the preseason. Last year was so bizarre. I mean, this is a guy you thought you just throw him out there and he's going to be all-pro caliber from the get-go. I've never seen him play the way he played last year. And obviously people are saying, well, he missed Jordy Nelson. Well, that's just one guy. Everybody loses a guy. It was something really weird with Aaron Rodgers last year, and not just with the way he threw a football, but his body language, just the way he acted on the field. He wasn't as encouraging as he had been. He was a little bit more snippy with his teammates. So I'm just hoping, as a Packer fan or Ford Packer fan, that kind of out the window, and he's back to his old self. That's the number one thing we're all waiting to.
And Aaron does seem like he's having fun this season. I mean, he wore his best Western outfit that he could find. The big game is in Houston this year. And when you take a look at Aaron Rodgers, it's not like he had a bad year last year. He still threw for 31 touchdown passes.
Yeah, I know he did. But there were some games where you just said to yourself, Aaron, throw the football. What? Let it loose. And he did against Arizona in the playoffs. He was back to his old self there. And he did it the last two plays of the game against the Lions. I'm sure Lions fans don't want to remember. But there were other games, even like the Bears game up here and some other ones where it's like, what's going on? Because you know what it's like at the press box. You feel the best view that there is. You see receivers open. And there were times where a guy would be, kind of open. And in years past, he would just thread that needle, put it right into the guy's hands, and he would hesitate last year and dance around a little bit more. And it seemed to take him and it seemed to take the offense out of rhythm. And they never really found a cure for it. Last year he was at his best when his back was totally against the wall. And he had to just revert to the old him. We're waiting to see this year if he starts out fresh again or there's some carryover from last year. Now that Jordy Nelson is healthy, hopefully that's going to be the solution.
And John, how do you see the division playing out this year? Obviously, Minnesota just getting Sam Bradford, Detroit not scoring a touchdown in this preseason with the first string, and of course, Chicago still having Jay Cutler.
Yeah, Chicago is one of those teams that can be interesting. John Fox is a great coach. John Fox has been there taking teams to the Super Bowl. He knows how to build teams really well. that wasn't a bad Bears team at times last year. Jake Cutler is still Jake Cutler. You know, as a head coach, you have to think, oh boy, my life savings depends on Jake Cutler. And he can be great, but boy, he can be Jake Cutler-esque at times. But that's not a bad Bears football team. Minnesota was a chip shot away from advancing in the playoffs last year. Personally, and I know Teddy Bridgewater was the heart and soul of that football team in the way that he was a great leader. And they still have AP and all those guys, but I don't think Teddy Bridgewater was that great of a physical football player, to be honest with you. I think Minnesota's still going to be okay. That defense really came on last year. You know, everybody at the start of the season says, oh, boy, this team should run the table. Well, we've been around long enough, man. A couple of injuries here, a couple of games there, and everything changes. The landscape can change in a hurry. It's from week to week.
John, just don't tell the 2010 Green Bay Packers that song and dance, because Green Bay lost a lot of talent that year, and they still found a way to win a Super Bowl.
But you know what? What happened in that season? They had their backs against the wall. Aaron Rodgers' back was against the wall. They had to go on the road for every playoff game. They had to do all those kind of things. And they found ways to win football games. I've seen enough football to realize one thing. Guys have to make plays. It's not the X's and O's and the coaches' diagrams and all these things. In that playoff run the Packers had in 2010, they had more turnovers that turned into big plays than I've ever seen. DJ Raji scoring a touchdown against the Bears. Nick Collins in the Super Bowl. Desmond Bishop barely played anymore after that, forcing a big fumble on Mendenhall. Tim Mastay had his greatest game ever in the NFC Championship game. So you need to really peak with individual guys making big plays. That's the difference when it comes down to that point of the season.
John Mino now joins me right here on the UP Pregame Show presented by Fox Motors. And John, you're no longer part of the Green Bay Packer radio network for the pregame and postgame show. You're on the Big Boy Hotline. Tell everybody exactly what you're doing with your life these days.
I've got a new career that I'm loving it. You know, I've never had a normal job where I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning or working till midnight. And I want to make a change, and I've got a great job. I'm director of marketing and media for a real estate company, producing a TV show for them that's to air on Channel 5 here in Green Bay. And I'm just having a really good time. I love it. I still follow sports, but it doesn't have to be 24 hours a day. We don't live and breathe it all the time.
John Mino, we truly do miss you on the pregame show on the Packers radio network along with the postgame show. Thank you for joining me this morning right here on the pregame show on the Big Boy Hotline.
And you know my pay, one cookie a week, right? That's my demand. Thank you, brother.
We're going to take this quick time out. When we come back, we'll have the voice of the Detroit Lions radio network and Fox 2 joining me, Mr. Dan Miller. You're watching the UP pregame show.
UP summer is at its peak. Traditionally, my husband and I like to get out and enjoy some of our favorite sights. But this time, it's different, because this summer we pass our traditions on.
The all-new 2016 Chevy Silverado. Fox Nagani, experience the difference.
What sounds good? What do you think about the Slim Jim and fries? Ooh, let's do seafood. The fish and chips is my favorite. I know, I'll just skip dinner and get a piece of their hot fudge cake. Boy, you're a big help.
Value never goes out of style at Big Boy.
Big Boy Marquette. Food worth talking about.
It's game time. Come on up to 906, Marquette's newest sports bar and grill. We are family friendly, and with 12 HD TVs, we have it all. NFL ticket, NHL center ice, and Michigan Lotto games. If the game is on, it's on at the 906 Sports Bar and Grill. Locally owned, serving lunch and dinner daily along with happy hour specials, and everything is fresh, including our hot wings with homemade sauces. Great service, family friendly, and a great view. The 906 Sports Bar and Grill. Look for the red awning at 145 West Washington Street, downtown Marquette.
Welcome back to the UP pregame show presented by Fox Motors. I'm Casey Ford. Now joining me on the Big Boy Hotline, the voice of the Detroit Lions and a man that works down at Fox 2 in Detroit, Mr. Dan Miller. And Dan, being September 11th, what does this day mean to you?
Well, I mean, I think everybody remembers where they were when that happened and just how awful that was. And I think in many ways how that was so eye-opening for us as a country because we had not really seen many things like that before. Obviously Oklahoma City was awful. That was something that I don't think any of us could imagine that somebody would take a plane and fly it into a building and do it multiple times in different places. I'll never forget that moment. I will never forget the moments that followed of sorrow and then pride and then everybody coming together. And that date will always mean something to anybody that was around to witness that.
Football was a sport that helped heal the nation 15 years ago as the Lions get set to take on the Colts at 4:15. They struggled in the preseason. The first string did not score one single touchdown. Obviously, we throw out preseason game number 4. But how concerned are you with this Detroit Lions team as we head to week 1?
Yeah, it concerns me, but I don't think it's an absolute indication of where they're going to be. I mean, I think you'd always rather see a team that's going to move right down the field and get into the end zone and score multiple touchdowns and then head for the bench and be done for the night. It didn't happen, and we'll see what happens against Indianapolis. But I think the questions that you have going into the regular season are the same questions that you had going into the preseason. That's, can they block? Can they run? Can they protect? Is that offensive line good enough? That was really my main question about this team coming into the season, and I think it's my main question as they begin the regular season. So we didn't get any answers in the preseason. You rarely do. Maybe there was a little more cause for concern because of the way they played, but bottom line is this. We saw 4-0 in 2008, followed by 0-16. We've seen good preseasons followed by bad regular seasons and vice versa. So it's impossible to tell people not to get worked up about it because that's all we have to go on.
Dan Miller, the voice of the Detroit Lions radio network, joins me right here on the Big Boy Hotline on the UP Pregame Show presented by Fox Motors. And Dan, the Lions finished 6-2 last season. They petitioned to keep head coach Jim Caldwell, offensive coordinator Bob Cooter. Bob Quinn comes in, and the Lions stay the course. How long is that leash for the Detroit Lions and this coaching staff? Or if they struggle out of the gate, how quick does Bob Quinn make a change?
The short leash would only really at this point, after everything that's happened, because there's been so many changes, refer to the head coach. He's the guy that was kept around from last year, and I think it was a smart move by Bob Quinn to keep Jim Caldwell. A, because the players absolutely love him, and I'm guessing that several of them probably went to bat with the new general manager. And B, I think if you're Bob Quinn, it's a smart move in that, look, he's got a 5-year deal. He didn't need to rush into hiring a new head coach. This gives him a year to A, look at Jim Caldwell, whom, believe me, I think he wants to succeed. I think he absolutely wants this guy to be his coach long term. But it gives him a year to look at him, to look at the team, and to figure out the exact direction he wants to go. I think the worst mistake you can make is jumping in, changing everything around, and then realizing you have to do it again 2 years later. I think he played it very smart. He's got time now to look at this thing, evaluate, figure out exactly where he wants to go, and he might find that he's on the right course right now. And that would mean, minimal changes to the coaching staff after the season and, always changes to the roster because that's the NFL. But I think if you look at the way that he's done this thing and the observation point that it gives him to keep an eye on everything, I think it's hard to argue with what he's done.
The Lions lose a great player in Calvin Johnson due to retirement. They obviously pick up Anquan Bolden. They have Golden Tate and a guy like Marvin Lewis. I guess who fills the shoes for Calvin Johnson this year?
Well, I think Marvin Jones is frankly the guy that more goes to, and this is, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to say this, but replacing Calvin. You don't replace Calvin Johnson. But Marvin Jones is a guy that has been productive in this league. I think fans have gotten a little bit of a look at him in the preseason. He's a good player, and I think that if you didn't know about him before, you're going to know about him coming up. He's not Calvin Johnson, but there's really nobody that is. So, Calvin's Calvin. He's gone. I'm not worried about this team in terms of weapons. Anquan Bolden is going to be somebody that will help this team. He's not what he used to be, but if you line him up in the slot, he can get mismatches against safeties or corners. He's going to be there shorthanded. All three of their top receivers are all very shorthanded, as is Theo Riddick. If I'm looking at this season, I don't question the weapons. They have plenty of playmakers. My question is, will they get a chance to make those plays because of the offensive line, and will they get a chance to broaden the passing game with balance? And that would be the offensive line providing them with a running game. So I think when you look around and you see Golden Tate and Marvin Jones and Anquan Bolden and T.J. Jones and Eric Ebron and Theo Riddick and Amir Abdullah, they have plenty of weapons. I'm not worried about that. It's, can you get enough balance offensively to keep a defense honest during the season? And to me, again, I sound like a broken record, but that goes back to the offensive line.
Dan Miller joins me right here on the Big Boy Hotline, voice of the Detroit Lions, as they get ready for the Indianapolis Colts at 4:25 this afternoon. Dan, how do you see the division shaping up this year with Sam Bradford being in Minnesota now? Obviously, you still got Jay Cutler in Chicago. How do you see the division going?
Minnesota was the defending champion coming in, but I think when you lose your quarterback, obviously that's got to knock you down a peg, and we'll see what happens. I don't count them out. They still have an outstanding defense, and they still have Adrian Peterson. But if they put minimal pressure on him and keep games low scoring and can control things on the ground, who knows what can happen? Zimmer's a good coach. He's going to figure out a way to keep this team competitive, and I don't think they're going anywhere. That being said, losing Teddy Bridgewater, I think probably in my mind swings the favorites role in this division to Green Bay. Certainly doesn't hurt that you start with number 12. So I think that, probably I'd look at them, and I think probably the Lions are in there probably third at this point with the ability to prove people wrong and move up. Look, I'm probably more bullish on the Lions than some. I have my questions, but I think there's talent on this team. I think that defense has got the ability to be pretty good. So I'd put Chicago fourth, and I think probably the Lions, have the ability to be there in December and to compete and to be in the playoff race. So, sitting here talking about it is one thing. You have to go play, and you have to go to Indianapolis and find a way to make a statement early. You got 3 out of your first 4 on the road. You got to find a way to do it. And Indianapolis is hurting right now. They're hurting on the offensive line. They're hurting in the secondary. So, take advantage of that.
The Colts quarterback Andrew Luck struggled last season. What do the Lions have to do to stifle this Colts team and get a victory in Indianapolis?
Pressure him. It's really no different with many quarterbacks. Stop the run, pressure the quarterback, and he has obviously been hit quite a bit early in his career, and their offensive line is hurting again. So, defensively, pressure him, hit him, make him uncomfortable, make him throw it before he wants to. Offensively for Detroit, heck, get in the end zone. That's a start. That's been missing during the preseason. So come out, show what you're capable of, and your game planning now, something you haven't done before. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that offensive line and what they're capable of, and if they can run block, and if they can get some sort of sustained running game. And if they can, I think the balance will help Matthew Stafford in the passing game, and I think he's got a lot of guys that can really move it after the catch between Golden Tate and Marvin Jones and Theo Riddick. These are guys that can make plays once they have the football in their hands. Give them a chance to do that, and I think that some good things can happen.
The best part is this is a prime time game, and that doesn't always happen for a team like Detroit.
425 puts you in the spotlight, and you're going up against one of the high-profile guys in the NFL in Luck, so you know what? You're going out there, you're playing it, go win it. I think it's going to be fun. I begin this season like probably most other people should with hopes and a belief that this team can get some good things done, but also the understanding that, hoping for it, seeing it on paper, believing it's the truth, none of that means anything. You got to actually go out there and do it.
Dan Miller, as always, we appreciate your time right here on the UP Pregame Show presented by Fox Motors. When we come back, we'll have a major announcement regarding the Packers and the Lions and watching this together. You're watching the Pregame Show.
During summer, every second counts.
We like to plan out those numbered days so that minute by minute and hour by hour we have something to remember. Everywhere you look, you will find fun and beauty. But it's not the budding forests or the serene rivers that make these days so memorable. It's little people that I get to enjoy them with. That's what makes the UP summers one of a kind.
The 2016 Subaru Forester, Fox Marquette, experience the difference.
It's game time. Come on up to 906, Marquette's newest sports bar and grill. We're family friendly, and with 12 HD TVs, we have it all. NFL ticket, NHL center ice, and Michigan Lotto games. If the game is on, it's on at the 906 Sports Bar and Grill. Locally owned, serving lunch and dinner daily along with happy hour specials, and everything is fresh, including our hot wings with homemade sauces. Great service, family friendly, and a great view. The 906 Sports Bar and Grill. Look for the red awning at 145 West Washington Street, downtown Marquette.
There are no linen tablecloths, no fine china, and no extensive wine list. Yes, we do have great food. Yes, our hearty buffets are loaded with choices. And yes, our desserts are made fresh. Oh, and one other thing, when the bill arrives,
Yes.
I'd like to thank you all for watching the inaugural UP Pregame Show presented by Fox Motors, 906 Sports Bar, and Big Boy. Still time to go out there and get yourself a Big Boy breakfast buffet. I highly encourage it. Go see Steve. He treats all his employees well, and he'll treat you well. Big announcement, because September 25th, the Green Bay Packers and Detroit Lions take on each other. We will be having a live watch party. There's so far, it's going to be a Packer jersey that's going to be given away. But join us September 25th at the 906 Sports Bar and have yourself a chance to win a Green Bay Packer jersey. But most importantly, get together with your Lion friends and Packer friends and the UP Pregame Show, your pregame show. And we'll have a great time September 25th at the 906 Sports Bar. As always, you can follow me on Twitter. I'll hashtag during the games and answer your questions, all that good stuff. It's Real Casey Ford. Also, if you want to find us on Facebook or find me on Facebook, I have a public page. It's Casey Ford. And obviously, if you want to come see me at Fox Motors, I'd love to have a cup of coffee with you, some cookies, maybe some popcorn, and talk about the Green Bay Packers and Detroit Lions, or heck, even Minnesota, for crying out loud, or the Chicago Bears for all you Bear and Packer and Viking Lion fans out there. But anyway, come see me at Fox Motors. I am at Fox Nagani, and I'd love to talk about football with you and have a cup of coffee and discuss exactly what's going on. But thank you for watching the UP Pregame Show.